Okay, folks, so this is our mini lecture on sexual selection. And we're going to talk about how sexual selection is similar and different to other aspects of behavioral ecology. We've sort of covered so far what behavioral ecology is, that it's the idea that behaviors, like any other phenotype, are at least partially driven by our genes. And because they're heritable, they're under selection via natural selection, right? And we've covered some information on sort of some broader theories in the behavioral ecology of foraging, how animals decide what to eat, how long to stay in a patch, these kinds of things. One of the central themes there is that there are costs and benefits, right? And that natural selection, via ecological interactions, shapes traits via the trade off between these costs and benefits. And the same is true of sexual selection. So, one of the key things we need to know about sexual selection is that there's differential investment in offspring among sexes. By the very definition, eggs have more invested in them than sperm. There's more nutrients in eggs than in sperm. They're sort of the larger, the macrogamete, the larger one. But there's also investment in terms of parental care. There's investment in terms of gestational period and the nutrients that organisms give to their developing organisms if they have development inside of them. There's investment in terms of like bringing food to young organisms that can't forage for themselves. And that these costs and benefits, the benefit is clearly fitness, right? These costs are differentially allocated among sexes in many species, right? This differential investment means that some species have high, or some sexes in some species have higher costs. And so they need higher benefits, or selection maximizes benefits in different ways. This is often in the form of females who produce the larger gamete being highly selective for mates, right? Mates invest much less in their young and so are less selective in mating attempts. This is called intersexual selection, where females have some choice among males and they decide based on the benefits of that decision, right? But this can happen in males choosing among females if the costs and benefits are differential, right? Like if males are investing more in the offspring than the females, then in that case we would anticipate that males would be choosy among which females they choose to mate with, right? And this intersexual selection is often female choice among the sexes. There's also intrasexual selection. This is within a sex, right? This is competition for mating attempts among males. This is competition defending territories among different organisms to maximize mating attempts, right? This is competition in the size of nuptial gifts. But the key here is that both of these are driven by the costs and benefits associated with them. You can read some about specific case studies in your book, thinking about bird tails and predation risk. But I want to use an example here of nuptial gifts to think through intersexual and intrasexual sexual selection. So imagine a situation, this is quite common, where let's use female spiders, but lots of organisms do nuptial gifts. So we have a female spider, right? And she is investing a ton of energy in her young. Perhaps she even has parental care. She's going to carry them around on her back, or she's, putting lots of nutrients into the eggs so that those developing organisms can be fit, right? And the males are competing for her attention. There's intersexual selection here. Because she's investing so much and they invest so little, she should be choosy. And in the case of nuptial gifts, the males accumulate nutrients that they share in an attempt to win a mating attempt, right? And we can imagine that there's different size nuptial gifts, right? So some males, one of the key ideas of sexual selection is that opportunities to mate are limited and are competed for. That some males do better competing for that attention and get to mate. So in this case, the male maybe has a really large nuptial gift or a really small nuptial gift. And there's direct nutritive benefit here, right? This is maybe a bunch of mosquitoes wrapped up into a bundle that have been poisoned, and the female will eat them and use those nutrients to apportion her young. And so clearly she'd select the higher nutritive gift. This is a direct benefit, right? This is a direct benefit. And so here there's intersexual selection, where she's choosing the males, but there's also intrasexual selection going on here. Imagine, or there possibly could be, imagine that perhaps males compete for territories to build their webs, and some areas are much better for collecting mosquitoes or whatever, right? Then the males are competing with each other and pushing each other off of logs and taking territories away from each other to get an optimal space to make their net, their web, to gather the largest nuptial gift to get a chance to reproduce, right? So there's both inter and intra-sexual selection going on here, right? And there's a very direct benefit of nuptial gifts. In fact, some male spiders offer up their whole bodies as the nuptial gift. You can eat and kill me because I have so few mating attempts that giving up my body as a nutritive gift for you to eat is the nuptial gift. Kill me and eat me, feed me to our babies, right? This is kind of crazy nuptial gift land. But now let's imagine another situation, right? Another situation where we have a similar female spider, but in this case, maybe it's a peacock spider or something. And we have males that not only, in addition to making their little nuptial gifts, invest in some ornament that attracts the female. Some crazy ornament, right? That ornament attracts her attention, and she chooses to mate with whoever has a bigger ornament. Let's make this ornament bigger, right? One of the key ideas here is that there's no immediately perceptible direct benefit of the ornament. It's not like having the ornament gives extra nutrients to the female's young. Instead, that ornament indicates indirect benefits. Often this is thought of as a signal of the male's fitness, and in many cases that signal might be honest, right? So imagine instead that this ornament not only attracts the female's attention, but makes this spider much, much, much more apparent to predators. The male that can support a larger ornament in this case has to spend a ton of energy running away from predators, right? He's actually using all that energy he could be using to make a big nuptial gift, running away from predators. But it indicates an indirect benefit to the female spider that his genes are really good at getting away from predators, and so her offspring will be extraordinarily fit. In this case, this is called an honest signal, right? There's no direct benefit. All of the energy that spider invested in that ornament could have been used to forage for the young, but instead it's evolved as a signal of its fitness, right? A signal of its ability to avoid predation. This is an indirect benefit, right? It's sort of counterintuitive then, right? Like in a perfect world, that spider wouldn't waste all that time and energy and all those chances of getting eaten running away from predators. Instead, it would take all that energy and invest it in a big nuptial gift, right? And then both of their young would be better off. They'd evolve with more energy. But this is one of the key concepts of evolution and ecology and evolution, is that the world isn't always perfect. Natural selection isn't a perfect optimizer. And instead, it reaches sort of local optima, right? It doesn't, the global optima is invest all your energy in this nuptial gift. But locally, natural selection is selected for this crazy, wild ornament, right, that signals my fitness, that signals my ability to avoid predators, that signals my resistance to diseases, something like that. And that's what natural selection has favored, right? So evolution isn't perfect, right? It isn't perfect. Instead, it optimizes locally on the traits that are available. And so the idea of sexual selection are sort of just like any other behavioral ecology. They're shaped by the costs and benefits to each of the sexes, and that differential investment in offspring leads to differential sexual selection, where females may be controlling male mating attempts, or males might be competing among each other for mating attempts, or even in cases where males are being very choosy in females, when they invest more in the offspring and females invest less. This is much less common, but nonetheless exists. The other idea is that this happens via both direct gifts that are like clearly via sort of direct benefits that are clearly part of increasing offspring's fitness. This could be via nuptial gifts, via parental care, right? Males could stick around and feed the babies, or via these crazy evolved signals that because they're honest, because they're an honest indicator of fitness, are under selection by natural selection. Can you imagine what a dishonest signal if that would evolve, right? Let's take a second to think about it. Imagine instead if this crazy ornament didn't indicate my ability to hide from predators. It didn't mean that my young would be better at hiding from predators. It didn't indicate that I'm better at getting food. Instead, it's just this crazy thing that comes with very little cost, right? The only cost is spent on building it. In that case, we wouldn't expect natural selection to select on it. It could evolve via drift or all these other non-adaptive processes, but dishonest signals are not evolutionarily stable. If this were susceptible to cheating, if this guy could grow a giant tail without facing the costs, then that signal no longer carries information, and so selection wouldn't select for females that favor it, right? So that's a key idea in sort of behavioral ecology, this idea of honest signaling. The next lecture you'll watch, I think, is about the ideas of living in groups. But yeah, key ideas: costs and benefits, differential allocation to offspring can lead to inter and intra-sexual selection via both direct benefits and crazy signaled indirect benefits. Great, see ya.